Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, the Poketown store is the place to go. You can even use the OmniPoke code for a 5% discount on your order. For today's video, we are going to be looking at kind of Tord's build of perfection, of Mew Tord, or whatever you want to call it. This is a 58 card list of what Tord played to a first place finish in Cologne, going 9-0 in Swiss day one, and I think only losing one game over the entire weekend. The differences from this list and Tord's is that I have cut the Greninja line, the one water, one Greninja from the list. It's up to you if you want to continue to play that, but personally I just wanted to add in a second copy of Switch to the deck, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, Mewtwo is still proving itself to be very strong. Azul also was able to win over at Atlantic City with a more sort of usual build of Mewtwo, one that we've become a little bit more accustomed to since Worlds. But Tord's brought a definitely different spin on the deck. He plays no custom catchers. He plays Shedinja as his like alternate win condition, I guess you could say. Mewtwo, of course, does have some good bench control with some sniping attackers and some spread damage. But yeah, it's trying to be very different to previous Mewtwo's that we've seen. Obviously playing a bunch of different supporters, a stadium count that we're not used to. Lots of different things here from Tord. So let's jump into the list, starting off with Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. This ability, Perfection, is what we're building around. The Pokemon can use the attacks of GXs and EXs on your bench or in your discard pile. And you, of course, still need the same energies, but that really does open the doors for us to be very versatile, copy some big Stage 2 attackers, some Stage 1s, and even other things that we have in play at the time, which is really, really awesome. Makes this deck difficult to play because the number of options that you do have available to you. But if you're able to navigate those options, it can really help you reap the rewards and be very, very powerful for sure. It also comes with a Miraculous Duo GX attack. For 2 Psychic and a Colorless, you do 200. If you have at least 1 extra energy attached, you get to heal all damage from all of your Pokemon as well. So that can be pretty good if your opponent's trying to set up some numbers specifically against you. But we only play 2 Psychics in here. We mainly use those Psychic energies for other attacks anyways. But it's something that you can bear in mind. For those attackers, we'll start off with Solgaleo. He's the only 2-of attacker in the list, and that just is testament to how important he is in our early game. Turbo Striking is a huge deal. For 2 colors, you can do 120 and attach 2 basic energy from your discard pile to one of your benched. It's, again, just really, really important. Usually we're trying to get multiple Mewtwo's powered up. If you're going first, welder into 1 Mewtwo and being able to like Dedenne change, discard a bunch of energies and get a Turbo Strike in the discard pile can be phenomenal tempo for you. You can sometimes get 4 or 5 energies into play in one turn with this deck, which is obviously very, very tempting and powerful. Even if we just go second, it's pretty easy for us to be Turbo Striking on turn 2. Without the use of Welder, you can then use things like Red's Challenge and Hapu to get you towards this combo, and ultimately end up with 2 pretty much powered up Mewtwo's for the rest of the game, so that just 1 or 2 Welders throughout will supplement you and allow them to access some of these more heavy hitting attacks that we have the options for. Let's start off with the fire ones. Obviously we are a Welder based deck, it's a big part of the list, and it does mean that we just have access to some very powerful one-hit KO attacks in the case of this Charizard-GX. 140 vanilla on Flamethrower for 2 fire and 2 colorless is pretty okay for dealing with most non-GXs, no questions asked. And that Flare Blitz GX is amazing at being one of the most efficient attacks that we have in the game. For 2 fire, 2 colorless, you do 300 with no downside. So it can knock out tag teams, pretty simple. Really a nice addition to this deck, making Mewtwo much more aggressive since its release. We then have a Magcargo-GX. Lava Flow also offers a nice one-hit KO option without being the use of a GX attack, which is great. It means in some tag team matchups it can be as simple as taking a knockout with Solgaleo, with the attack from Charizard, and then going into a Lava Flow if your Mewtwo hasn't been answered. You do 50 base, and you can discard any number of basic energy from this Pokemon, and do 50 more for each you discarded. Do bear in mind it does say basic, and we do play special energies in this list thanks to Weak Guard, so don't fall into that trap of having too many Weak Guards attached to your Mewtwo. It won't help out against when you're trying to use Lava Flow. But for the most part, this is just a great finishing attack. We also have the Burning Magma GX option available, discarding the top 5 cards of our deck. Of our opponent's deck, which is, just in random spots, a nice way to clean up a game in a different way than taking 6 prizes. It can be pretty good against Pidgeotto control if they have to dig deep towards their combo, and it can be pretty nice just in general if people are digging to find answers for your chunky Mewtwo's, which can happen more often than you'd expect as well. We then have one Reshizard. Outraging is a reasonable option. It's cheap and it can definitely chip in, seeing as though Mewtwo is tanky and difficult to one-shot. For a lot of archetypes, you can get some value in Outrage, especially if you're going for like early Turbo Strikes. You can go Turbo Strike into Outrage pretty happily. If you need to do a little bit more than 120 to finish things off. You then have Flare Strike, which is, again, a great option for us for dealing with regular GX Pokemon. 3 fire and a colorless to do 230s, just a good enough number at getting one-shots with basically no downside. Obviously, you can't use Flare Strike during your next turn, but Mewtwo has the options for so many other attacks, it's not really a big deal. And we also have the Double Blaze GX attack. Again, 3 fire for 200 is pretty good vanilla output. But if you do have that extra 3 fires, you can do 100 more damage and go through all effects as well. This is a really big deal against Guardian. It's a pretty big deal against Keldeo as well. You'll notice that I did cut the Greninja and Water Energy from this deck, so if you do face multiple Keldeos, this list in particular is in trouble. Tords wouldn't be. But this Double Blaze, at the end of the day, is a great wall breaker. And again, if you get to 6 energies, you can just take a big tag team knockout or just get through anything that's otherwise pretty pesky. We then have a couple Psych Energies in the deck, which then sort of activates some of these other attackers that we have available. Naganadel has a Venom Shot. You can discard 2 energy from this guy, and you do 170 to one of your opponent's bench, or, well, to any of their Pokemon, actually, but it can also target the bench, which is great for cleaning up the game on things like Dedenne, or just anything that you've damaged previously. Again, things like Turbo Strike early on, people retreat out of that, and then you can snipe them later, which is great. 170 is also a good number against things like Blacephalon if you're trying to avoid B-String. You can set up some numbers for like Espeon Deoxys plays if you Venom Shots, don't knock out a Blown, and then you can try and like set up math to knock out multiple things at once. So again, another thing to bear in mind, because sometimes you will have to jump B-String against Blacephalon because they can otherwise be pretty aggressive. We do have that Espeon and Deoxys. It allows some really flexible math to take place to really set up numbers for games. Cross division is the key focal point here. You can put 10 counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. If this has at least 3 extra energy, so 6 total, one of them being a Psychic, you can put 20 counters on them instead. Obviously, it's a big deal against Malamar, wiping a number of them off the board straight away, especially if they're Inkays. Like, if you've gone first, it's insane to, like, Welder into Welder, attach a Psychic in there as well, and you can just completely, like, wipe the board. Similar story against things like Pidgeotto Control. It can really get them out of control, which is really good. Ruin their draw engine altogether and just put them in a horrible spot. It can either be used as like a finisher against them or just like initially to stop them even getting towards combo pieces or towards hammers, and you can just sort of overwhelm them. And Psychic Club is something that could come in handy in random spots. You do 10 and 30 more for each of your bench Psychic Pokemon. Again, Mewtwo has the option for all these attacks, and there might be a moment where Psychic Club's relevant, so just bear that attack in mind. You also have the Tag Purge attack of this Latios, which is really awesome. For a Psychic, you can do colors, you do 120. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from tag teams. At the very least, this attack can buy you time. It's pretty nice to use this attack against things like Pikarom, which is obviously very tag team focused. They usually rely on things like Raichu to take knockouts on your Mewtwo's. So saying no to that damage is a pretty big deal. Obviously, Zeraora is very far away from taking a knockout at just 160 base output. They have to find a bunch of Electro Powers to make that a useful attack, so Tag Purging through Pikachu and Zekrom players is really nice. Good against things like Greenzard as well. It can knock out things like Volcanions, whilst also defending yourself from Charizards. Obviously, they can Double Blaze through you for the 6 energy requirement, so don't get too carried away with Tag Purge, but it can be pretty good against them as well. In Mirror, it's good against Guardian if you're trying to buy time. Obviously, we do play Lysander Labs as well, so that can be a reasonable attack. So yeah, this Latios is really good for Tag Purging. It also has Clear Vision. For the rest of the game, your opponent can't use any GX attacks. This can bail you out in random spots. Again, if you've not hit Welders, your opponent has. If they're powering up something like a Reshizard, or if it is like a Mirror, you can sometimes use Clear Vision. Usually we'll have better GX attacks to go for. But it is something that you can bear in mind. And then one of the best things about Latios is that he just has free retreat. So he's like a 5th Mewtwo. He's pretty much the optimal start in the deck. So Latios definitely a nice card to have. For the non-GXs, we have Recessing Hole Marshadow. It can be an extra defense against things like Power Plant, which is great. It's semi-searchable thanks to Pokémon. We have Red's Challenge in here as well to try and dig him out. And at the same time, you just put this guy down before you get hit with a reset stamp, so they don't combo you with Stamp and Power Plant at once, which is great. You also have the Red Knuckles attack, which can, again, come in handy against Blounds and other things that play Naganadel. You can knock them out with weakness, or you could just finish off something like Blacephalon going into B-String turns, which is cool if you have to activate them. You then have a 2-2 line of Shedinja. This is like a big innovation from Tord. You can evolve into the Shedinja, then like discard it and attach it as a tool to one of your Pokemon, and then the Pokemon this card is attached to, when it's knocked out, it gives up one less prize card. So essentially it's just trying to give Mewtwo more time to gain control of the game against some of these aggressive decks that can churn out some huge numbers. This Shedinja is really going to buy you some time, which is great. It can force the opponent to take an additional knockout, basically, is what you're looking for. An extra turn in the game is enough for you to sometimes, get your reset stamp going and really shut them down, or just give you that extra attack to close. So the Shedinja is obviously a big deal for giving you a bit more breathing space as Mewtwo, because otherwise it's just 2 Mewtwo's go down and you pack up. Now the Shedinja lets the game go a little bit longer, which is obviously very good for you. It does have Haunt. You can put 3 counters on your opponent's active. I've actually used this a couple times, but rarely to good effect, but something to bear in mind. For trainers, it's pretty straightforward. You play 2 reset stamp for disruption. Obviously it's a big deal when you have such tanky guys in the active. You can force the opponent to knock out 2 and the game's still not over, and then you can stamp them and make a comeback. 2 switches. This is a really good card against Blacephalon, trying to use Bursting Burn. If they don't have a knockout on board, they're going to try and confuse you and buy a turn. Also Pikarom, using their Raichu to paralyze. It's these sort of panic situation spots that they find themselves in. If they can't reach knockouts on Mewtwo, they're going to try and hit you with that paralysis or the confusion. Getting out of that's always a nice option for you, which is cool. You then have the 4 Cherish Balls. Obviously access to Dedenne is a huge deal, as well as our main attacker, and anything else that we just want to bin off with things like Hearth, or before we use a Dedenne change, always a pretty big deal for us. And then 4 Pokecoms, again, good outs to Dedenne. Lets us switch in, any Pokemon that we have in our hand that aren't that important, get something more relevant into the discard pile early, or just get us access towards Shedinja, which again is a really nice little combo piece that we have in the deck. For stadiums, we're playing 3 Giant Hearth, obvious synergy with Welder, giving us extra discard synergy as well for our Pokemon. 2 copies of Lysander Labs. It's more or less exclusively in here for Guardian, so you can shut down their charms, which are super annoying, but at the same time it can have that added effect against Jirachi players when you are trying to hit them with the reset stamp. You can also combine it with Lysander Labs sometimes, and it really makes them less likely to close a game against you, because they have to find a switch in the mix as well, or they need to spend their turn attachment on the active Jirachi. Just make them find more things in the late game, which is pretty nice when they have a low hand size to play off of. For the supporters, it's going to be 2 copies of Hapu, probably your best supporter if you go first, because it has such great discard synergy. This deck wants to bin a bunch of cards, like basically the majority of your Pokemon you are happy to get rid of. A bunch of your basic energies you want to hit the bin as well, so you can get value from Turbo Strike early. So Hapu is amazing for that dig. Also, obviously gets you further into the deck, which is a great deal for you. 2 copies of Red's Challenge can pick out some important pieces, things like Reset Stamp if you're on defense, switches and stuff if you're getting hit with status. Just giving you more outs towards these cards is always nice. Weak Guard Energies can be important to pull out. So many different options, and again, extra discard synergy for the deck. It's just a very versatile card. Mewtwo finds itself having the option to use this guy on turns here or there, basically thanks to Shedinja, giving us that extra turn of like breathing room to just be like, I can just Red's Challenge this turn, grab like a piece that helps enough, and be happy to like Dedenne change and try and dig again next turn or whatever. So he's a nice option to have in the deck. And then we have 4 Welder, still a really integral piece, of course. It means that going second, you can Turbo Strike immediately, which is just huge pressure, and it helps you work towards these big one-hit KO attacks, as well as, of course, SPDO's Cross Division for full value. So Welder's still a really huge deal in this list for sure. Onto the energies. I'm still playing 14, even without the water. I've just flip-flopped a water for a fire. The 3 weak guards come in to take place of Jirachi GX. Jirachi GX obviously would take up a board space, which is a little bit awkward. But at the same time, many Malamars have gone towards power plants, even if it is just a low count. This weak guard energy is much better protection against that. And in Mirror, it's kind of a more aggressive answer, I guess is the best way to put it, because the opponent still has to find their own weak guard energy or find their own Jirachi GX. Otherwise, you can definitely punish them. Whereas Jirachi is like, it happens for both players. So if you were to put Jirachi down, your opponent doesn't have to do it themselves. So this weak guard means that they still need to find their own answers, which is pretty cool. Also things like Naganadel, never forget that Turning Point on 3 prizes can be a very scary attack against you. So yeah, weak guard energy is good for a bunch of different cards right now. We have a couple Psychics, obviously activates all these attackers around here. And then we have 9 Fire. Should be plenty to start hitting the discard pile, attaching in between turns, and just having Welder accessibility. So yeah, if you are going to go and just play towards 60, I wouldn't question you at all. And this is the one you're looking for, the one that has Mist Slash from Detective Pikachu, the promo. This can obviously help you get through Keldeos, which is a pretty big deal. It helps you get through all sorts of other stuff, like Alolan Ninetales. Helps out against Guardian even more, so you're not just reliant on finding just Lysander Labs. So yeah, the Greninja, good card for sure. And then there's other attackers as well. So there's some non-GXs that are definitely like experimented in with Mewtwo. Distortion Door could be another answer to Keldeo, which is pretty cool. Obviously, having a bit of upside when you put him into play and you're trying to do Espeon Deoxys plays, it gives you that extra push of damage sometimes, which can be nice. And does give you an extra way of avoiding B-String. Again, I mentioned 170 on Naganadel, setting up a number against Double-Cephalon. You could then go for like a Distortion Door play plus like a knockout attack with Mewtwo in the active. And that can be a pretty big deal. So, Giratina, definitely a nice non-GX option if you want to have extra answers to Keldeo without having to play that Greninja. Turtonator, again, another wall breaker style attacker, gets through Tag Purge, gets through the charms from Guardian. So if you just have a bunch of energies in play, Turtonator can definitely capitalize on that, which could be pretty cool. And oh yeah, I should mention for the Giratina, you should probably play a third Psychic if you play that Giratina. The other one that you see in some regular Mewtwo lists, I guess you could say, is the Mind Report Mewtwo. Just to put a supporter back on top of your deck. I think naturally towards higher supporter count, it's not necessarily mandatory to put that in. For other cards that you sometimes see in Mewtwo, I think like Acrobikes, Treasures, those are sorts of cards that you'll sometimes expect to see in a Mewtwo list. You could try and work in a couple of those if you really wanted to, but overall I'm pretty happy with Pokémon. I don't think there's too much else I'd want to play in this list. I guess the only other supporter that you would like experiment with, I guess, would be Bill's Analysis. If you want it in addition as like a one-of in the deck, I don't hate that too much. On stream earlier, I was testing a third copy of Hapu over that energy that I put in. And you could equally try and put in like a Bill's Analysis as like a 9th supporter to the list, because it honestly feels like you don't need to weld it every single turn with this deck. So playing other supporters is like pretty much welcomed. So yeah. Anyways, that's going to be a few options for perfection. Obviously, Mewtwo has an endless list of options, so I'd be sat here all day if I was talking about them. But I think right now, the Greninja cut is a little bit greedy, but I definitely want to have a second Switch. I think the second Switch is better in more mainstream matchups, whereas Greninja just sort of protects you against a fringe one. And we saw how Azul just played less answers to fringe stuff and did well. So I'm kind of taking a leaf out of that book and hoping I don't get punished for it, basically. All right. Looks like we have not the best start. I mean, we do have a Welder Hearth Cherish Ball, so that's pretty cool, but starting Dedenne is never great, but we'll move on from that. Looks like we pick up a Latios-GX, and we might well be in a mirror match situation here. So benching my own Latios and switching into it seems like a decent start, but I'll kick things off with a Hearth. Get rid of a Solgaleo here. And try and see if we have Mewtwo at our fingertips. We just see a Charizard. We have a Shedinja available. Shedinja obviously good in mirror match situations. Force the opponents to take an extra prize. Don't rely on it though, because they still can play labs now in mirror. So we have our one-hit KO options, which is nice. We have 3 Dedennes. We have 1 Stamp. All of our weak guard energies, you obviously have to keep an eye on those as well. Our own labs for Shedinja. We just have one's prized. Okay, that should be fine. So it looks like we're Cherish Balling for a Mewtwo here. The hand's actually pretty gassed, to be honest. Don't know why I complained earlier. It's a Welder. Always happy to see Welder. Oh, geez. Okay, this is actually pretty insane. I think Dede changing is good. I think getting an Nincada down is also very good. Maybe putting a one-hit KO guy in the discard isn't bad, but we've already got Turbo Strike. I'm pretty content with that. I'm pretty happy to switch into Latios as well. Free retreat pivot. And we can go for this Dedenne change. We now get an extra attachment in, which I'm very happy to see. And yeah, this is a really nice aggressive turn one from us. When you go first, you don't always have to be this super aggressive, but sometimes it falls on your lap really and you just go for it. Our opponent's going to go for a custom catcher play. Then they're going to Poke Gear and find their own Reds challenge. They're going to Dedenne change. So obviously there's no weak guard in play for us just yet. They could use some attacks like Double Blaze GX for a knockout if they get their own Welder attach. We'll see a bunch of Acrobikes from them, getting rid of a Water Energy as well. So it looks like they're like a mix of Tords and Azul's lists, because obviously they play Pokegears and Bikes, which is more similar to like old Perfection. Okay, it looks like they just whiffed. Okay, fine. Alright. Well, the custom catcher play was trying to win on turn one. Pretty aggressive. Oh well. Let's try and find another game. Let's get into the second game here. Once again, not starting one of our preferred. We have a Zard, but the hand's looking pretty sweet. We have a nice Dedenne change available. We've got another Cherish Ball, which could come in nice. I see Cynthias as well as Welders. Not really sure what this is. Cynthia and custom catchers. Maybe it's just a different build of Mewtwo that again is experimenting with a support account. Get the benefit of a couple mulligans, which is always great. Oh, it's Blounds, of course. Alright, Blounds can be a tricky matchup. But our hand is pretty nice, to be honest. I'm going to start off with the Pokémon. Going to pop one of these Dedennes back in. And we're going to have a Scout. Obviously, Shedinja is one of the first things we should check. Marshadow is a good one as well. Espeon Deoxys can get us around some B-strings if we need to. We're already being a Solgaleo and a... Man, this hand is a crazy good discard hand. How many switches do we have? We have both switches, which is nice when we start a Zard. Weak guards are also important because they can definitely try and use the Nagas against us if they need to. But I think developing this early Nincada seems very good. I think I'm happy to Hapu, which was a mouthful. Rather than like dig for Welder, I think this is fine. When you go first, I'm always like pretty happy with this sort of play. Well, that's a pretty good outcome for sure. Getting a couple energies in the bin means... So if I take the Shedinja, it means I don't go for the Dedenne change. Sorry, if... Yeah. We know we have the other Shedinja in hand anyways. Sorry, in deck. And we basically only ever need one. So I think I don't mind going for the big dig turn here. It's just such a powerful Dedenne change that it's really, really tempting, right? I think I'm happy with the Pokemon I have in my discard. I'll just grab another Mewtwo here. I don't think I need to chill too much. It's just such a powerful discard for us. We want to try and work towards Welder switch for next turn. And we've started off pretty well on that route. We've got a Welder at least. If we wanted to be super aggressive, we could double blaze this Blacephalon turn 2, depending on how good their start is. sometimes with that Shedinja in the deck, you can just, if you can chain welders, you can just out-aggress them. And if their hands doesn't start strong, you can definitely kind of hedge. So they're going to start with an attachment. They're also going to Ultra Space out a Poipole. You can see a treasure as well. That starts looking pretty reasonable. Getting rid of a Naga-GX for a third Poipole. So they're certainly getting rolling here. They also mentioned Mew. And we're going to see a custom catcher for 3. Okay, not as great as I first thought. But they end up finding a Hapu. Taking a while on this. I'm going to get rid of a Heat Factory, a Fire, Heatran. Oh, they have a second Heatran down already. And we're just going to see a Bursting Burn. Okay. Alright, before anything else, we want to pull our Naga out the deck, that's for sure. So digging towards these switches is pretty much the priority. We have 2 Cherish Balls, so I don't mind playing one now, just to get a card that I want to thin from the deck. I think I always just take the Dedenne off the second Cherish Ball as well. Just maximize this chance of us getting a switch off our 9 cards, basically. No, I think I'm always turbo striking. Or attempting to, at least. We can get another Cherish Ball in. Going really deep into the deck pretty early. Lysander Labs is a good bounce. I don't need to necessarily do the Nincada like super early, so just like removing the easy option for Nagas is pretty good right now. It feels pretty counterintuitive to do this. I might actually just reset and haul it. Yeah, that sounds good. I could have just done the reset haul. I've done an extra action for no reason, but whatever. The outcome became fine. So we do run into a switch, which is great. Now we can turbo strike. Working off a low hand size. They did Hapu, so they probably got a supporter for next turn. Whereas we're going to set up a Blacephalon here. And get another Mewtwo on the go. We also have Hearth Welder for next turn if we really want to. Let's challenge another option. We definitely have options. Kind of depends on what our opponent's up to. How good their Hapu was. Looks like a Cynthia. And just a Bursting Burn. Picking up a Weak Guard Energy is interesting. How many files are we going to discard? Just 1. So I could Hearth away Solgaleo, Red's Challenge away, a Fire and a Welder for a switch. Switch and Turbo Strike. I could Welder active, or I could Welder bench. Try and find Psychic Energy and Oh, I can't do any sniping. No. Okay, so I'm definitely gonna Hearth. That much we know. And this is where the question marks start coming in for Mewtwo. You have so many options. It's just deciphering which is the best. I could always just pay retreat Turbo Strike. Make him have a bunch of B-strings. I don't think the reds is good enough. I feel like I want to welder. I'm going to pop it active. Getting a switch is actually a pretty good deal. Pretty good deal for sure. I mean, it's what we probably would have redsed for, right? And it means next turn I can go like stamp reds for Shedinja. Shedinja up my Mewtwo. That sounds pretty good. And just figuring out where I attach to here. Okay, there's no time. I missed an attachment. I wasn't certain of where to put it. I think it was pretty close. But yeah, like Mewtwo, man. If I play Mewtwo in real life, I'll just take way too much time. I'd get a lot of prize penalties, I think, if I played Mewtwo IRL. It's just like filtering through so many options is rough. Minefield out there. Alright, we're going to see the B-strings start coming online. Like I said, this is basically a taboo if you play normal Mewtwo. But when you play Shedinja, you do have a little bit of leeway to just start hitting through them. A little bit. Just a little. Make them have everything. Their start's been shaky so far. We're going to see one B-string, then an evolution, then we see Hearth getting rid of a Lily, then they can welder. So it looks like they're setting up a Heatran play. Which isn't too surprising. It's just whether they have much beyond it. So this is 6 energy. See a treasure, this will get them another nag. Which will be enough to take a knockout, because they can charge up and then pay retreat and still get there. But as long as we don't get stamped, I'm not too concerned. Because we can just stamp reds, grab Shedinja, run him out of energies. I'm already holding weak gut energy, so I'm not worried about turning point either. So in this case, the aggressive route is looking okay. It's looking okay. Obviously the game's not over, but this turn is looking pretty strong for us. We deactivate B-strings. We lower his hand. And we're going to be able to make a Shedinja here, which is pretty good. Don't think there's anything better I could take. It's too risky to take anything else. So let's vessel our way into a bit more safety. And we can just use Flare Strike here. Couple fast from prizes isn't too shabby. Activates this welder. We're Psychic Energy away from game. Because we can SPDO the Mew and the Naga. So even if he tries to stay one prize, we're probably in good shape. This Mewtwo technically can go down if he has Blown Welder attach. Because of that 20 that they did earlier. That would be pretty devastating. It would be an insane reset stamp. I'm going to Hearth away a fire. For a couple more. There is a Blown. There's a Welder. Oh god. Well, I was nervous. They were basically an attachment away from killing our Mewtwo there and being in pretty reasonable shape. I mean, we just drew a Welder, so I could, like, just bring up the Zard, Welder attach, just go for a Outrage or something. So, kind of bailed out by prizes a little bit there. I mean, we didn't, like, lose the game instantly, but it felt like we were in complete control, and the reset stamp was pretty kind to them. Obviously, us not getting rid of the Hearth opened that up a little bit more than it should have been. Hearth is definitely a scary tool to give Blowns. As good as it is for us, definitely a mental note has to be made against Blowns. Alright, we get to go first here. And we get to kick off with an Nincada. And we see another Poipole. Okay. I think because we have a Reds challenge for next turn, I'm pretty happy just calming away this Dedenne for a Welder. For a Mewtwo, so I can Welder to it. We can also have a good scout of what's going on here. We have so many outs to get like back into Dedenne. I don't feel too bad about this. We have our Shedinjas. We have our one-hit KO machines. We have our Nag. We have pretty much everything going for us. Both stamps, both switches, all of our stadiums. We've prized 3 fires. 1 weak guard. 1 com. 1 Mewtwo. Okay. This is fine. 3 fires in the prize is definitely worth noting. Like, I play 9, so it's a little bit better, but prizing fires is usually horrible for Mewtwo, is what I've found. We actually do find our way into Dedenne, but do I want to? Next turn I can I can go for a pretty cool play of going like Hearth, Reds, get rid of those energies, find like a Shedinja. That'll be my free retreat, and then I can like Cherish Ball for a Dedenne, and then it's just like getting a Solgaleo live. Yeah, I think this is a good hand to hold. Plus, I don't really know what we're up against, so let's not get too committed. This might be another Blowns matchup. Yeah, it's another Blowns. Okay. Well, last time we did activate B-String and were able to get over the line, mainly thanks to Reset Stamp, and they did have a slow turn. But we'll see if we can sort of maybe try a different approach, or maybe we go the same approach and it works out the same again. We'll see, we'll see. Okay, so they have a welder for 1. And just nothing from there. Okay. Let's get our free Naga. Always a nice little trick. Put the Giant Hearth in. We're always putting this other Mewtwo down. I could Reds to get rid of Lab's Naga, just to grab that, just to grab Solgaleo. Then Dedenne change. Or do I Hearth first? If I Hearth first and do the Solgaleo, it's much better, right? Yeah. I would have 4 outs with switches and Shedinjas, and then I still have my turn attachment. So this Solgaleo is basically always happening, which is great. Reds for Dedenne. Do I risk missing an attack? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 outs. I mean, I think we're pretty okay if I just pay retreat and get 1 energy on the bench Mewtwo. I think we'll just remove any doubt that we miss. Just play a little bit safe. Well, we hit all the outs, but you never feel that bad playing safe, right? Also, we can do the Vessel of Life now, and we still get that energy in the bin, so that's good. I can do it any which way I want, really. Let's just do this. Do I ever put down the second Nincada? It's good for exactly one thing, and that's if we want to attack with a Reset Hull Marshadow at some point. That's the only time it's good for us. I guess I can decide next turn. I'll always evolve, though. Five, 10, 15, 20, 25 is his max next turn. So I guess we just go for the old Turbo Strike. No need to pop the Shedinja just yet, because we're never in range. In the Hearth away is Cynthia for a couple of fires. Looks like they've got more welders in their hand. There it is. I'm going to pop down a Blown. I'm going to slap energy to the bench. I see some customs coming in. Wow. Pretty aggressive play from him. Really super aggressive. Super aggressive play. Well, it means I can Turbo Strike again. It means I can do a lot of things, actually. Yeah, I mean, I'm just definitely setting up SPDO here. There's no way I'm not setting up an SPDO play. We're just going to try and set up SPDO for sure. We'll pitch these energies because we're going to Turbo Strike this turn. Can Hearth away a Zard pretty happily. Put this here. Yeah, I'm not too sure about their custom knockout that turn. Maybe their hand sort of warrants it. They don't have much else going for themselves, but they have no defense against SBDO now. Even if they evolve the Ditto, we jump B-Strings. So we should be chill. Definitely a different game to the one we just saw. Oh, this is one where they can still avoid it. But if they're not putting down any other Poipoles and stuff, I'm not that worried. I could just go for a Naga Snipe next turn on the other Blown. We have all the time. See another Welder from them. Doing well on those. 3 in 3 turns. They're gonna bounce Hearth with space. They are gonna grab Poipole. I wonder if they'll put it down. Yeah, they're going to go for a Burst GX. That's absolutely fine. We have our other Shedinja in deck, so that's not a problem. We actually pick up a Switch, which is pretty sweet. So let's go ahead and get that Shedinja out. Use it on this man. I'm just thinking now if I want to actually give him this Giant Hearth. He has played 3 Welders, so I think we can get rid of the space here. But it might be running a risk. It might be running a risk if he is playing 4 Welders. So I'm going to keep all these energies in play. I'm going to Naga Snipe this guy. He could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Which would be scary for sure. So I guess I don't give him the Hearth. So we're going to bang this on here. We have our other Switch in deck, which is pretty important actually. For him basically only ever using Bursting Burn next turn unless he can get that big knockout. I'm also going to put this guy down. We even draw into that Switch, which is great. We'll go for a Venom Shot here. Taking a Psychic off here means I could go for other Turbo Strike plays later. So I think that's good. It shuts Miraculous Duo, but I don't really care about that. So, in theory, we can lose if he plays his own Lysander Labs and then welders and attaches. That's asking a lot. And there's not really been any signs pointing towards him playing those cards. They are going to Cherish Ball Dedenne. They're going to also Ultra Space out a Nag that they can Ultra Convert if they want to. Oh, it looks like they're a Persian build. Interesting. Then we're going to see the Dedenne change. Getting shot of a bunch of cards. We actually see that fourth welder, so I'm glad I didn't give them the half. For just one. Yeah, it was definitely right to not give them that, just in case they play the fourth. And in this spot they did. Don't want to get hit with Reset Stamp, even though it's 5 cards into 5 cards, just because we happen to be holding Switch. They inevitably do go for that Bursting Burn. And we actually just draw Red's challenge, which is game. That's an energy card. That's going on there. You can go for that cross division. 6, 1, yeah. We're a bunch of damage over there. Sweet, nice 5 prize turn, pretty sneaky. Let's try and get another game in with Mewtwo. Maybe we face something that's not Blounds. But these Shedinjas definitely help Blounds. That's for sure. Cake Pops. We go second, I think, for the first time today. Well, in the video. Not today, of course. It's a Blounds. Okay. Well, we started Marshadow, and Marshadow is actually really good for getting a nice little poke on them for Turbo Strike. So this might be a game where we activate B-Strings. Kind of depends where our hand takes us. They gave us Heat Factory, which definitely gives us options. Oh, it's a green Blounds. Okay, this is pretty different. This is baby Blounds, I guess. So against baby Blounds, we definitely want to reset stamp them. Shedinja's still huge. The same rules apply, basically. But, it's more non-GXs that we got to get through. Oh, so it's green big Blounds. Okay. Interesting. Definitely interesting. We'll kick off with drawing 3 cards. It's always nice. So weldering to a Mewtwo is never bad. I think in this matchup it's a lot easier for us to actually jump B-Strings, Because they don't have the threat of Naga bursting a bunch of energies on us. We know exactly how many energies are hitting the field each time. Which is actually a pretty huge deal, I think. Alright, SBDO's here, Naga's here. Solgaleo's. We have one Nincada prized. We have both our stamps, which is huge. Access to only one Switch right now. Okay. Kick things off with this welder. We definitely want to... We can definitely go for a Turbo Strike this turn. We can just attach Cherish Ball for Solgaleo, Dedenne change Solgaleo. I think that's probably a good play. Getting rid of a couple Hapu is a little awkward, but it's just really good tempo from us here. We know we have our other Shedinja in the deck as well. We don't care about weak guards in this matchup. We actually got no very good target to use the Turbo Strike onto, which might change things a little bit. Let's have a think. Powering back up the Marshadow seems pretty weird. Obviously, we won't put it on Dedenne. The only thing is, if I do this 70 swing, it just really makes life a little bit more awkward for us, I think. It doesn't actually help us too much. Just lets him pop off of B-strings. I don't really like him popping off of B-strings too much. So I think I might be doing this just more so for the 120 than anything else. I'll keep this stadium open for us to use. For next turn, because we need something. I'm still going to put it here because next turn I might just switch attack. Because he might just bursting burn us. Attack with a Martian. Makes him have all the B-strings and the customs all in one. Yes, he's a greens deck, but still. I mean, if we can Welder again next turn and get a way to discard a Naga, that would be intense. Whoa, they played Giraffe. That's scary. That's super scary. We don't have many good attackers in the discard just yet, but yeah, that's scary. So I'll probably have to bench SBDO, huh? Okay, looks like he's trying to trap. Alright. So I can Hearth, Mewtwo, Red's Challenge away, fire Psychic, play Switch back into Mewtwo, Red's Challenge for the second Solgaleo. And just Turbo Strike this guy. Second Solgaleo coming in clutch for a very odd reason, but we appreciate it still. I guess I'm going to Pokecom in Charizard here. Just to grab a little Nincada man. Can you imagine him playing more Giraffe rigs than one Giraffe rig? Surely not, right? I mean, again, it's not game losing if this Naga gets lost at all, so I don't mind just doing this real quick. Sending him into the abyss. Yes, there's an energy to drop to the active. Actually to the bench, right? Because I'm putting the Psych Energy to the bench. Yeah. So it looks like I might be setting up the same sort of... I'll nag another Blown, then I'll SPDO. That's a fantastic prize, by the way. This list should be far more reliant on B-strings, so we should be chilling. Oh, he's going to stamp a busted hand. That's a random stamp. 5, and we already had 5 cards in hand. Completely random, but super busted. That's a shame. Oh, yeah, insane. He played double Giraffe as well. We'll go ahead and thin this SPDO. We can weld it to the benched Mewtwo. So, he only has 3 cards in hand. He only has 3 in hand. I should probably just go for a Marshadow knockout here. I think Marshadow knockout's correct. Alright, let's start seeing the carnage. Well, that's a hand of sorts. Let's see. No way. Oh, okay, okay. I thought chaos was about to ensue. Don't worry. I thought he had more plays than possible. Okay, that's fine. This is allowed. I thought I was getting detonated. The Mewtwo that's wiggling is certainly tempting, but I'm going to promote this Marshadow here, because I can always pay retreat and get that Psychic off of him, which seems good. So we have a Dedenne change available. Obviously, Dedenne change into Welder Fires is insane. Oh, they actually just concede. I don't think they should have conceded there. I think they definitely had a way to win. And it involved them having 5 energies in play on the bench. But I guess they probably would have run out of fuel. They'd already played a lot of Welders, and they had no hand. I mean, if I literally just knocked out the active, they had to still top deck a fire to do anything that turn, other than Bursting Burn. So I guess they were in complete top deck mode regardless. Anyways, we faced a bunch of Blounds, and yeah, so we weren't punished for cutting Greninja. Second Switch is actually super insane against Blounds, so I'm happy it was there. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about Tord's list. Do you like it? Do you like playing Azul's list? I'll hear it all down below. Thanks for watching though, and I'll see you guys in another video tomorrow. Cheers.